Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 3 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn artificial intelligence or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice strong cup of iced coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're getting out your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, look in the description below. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what we are going to learn today. This series of lessons, this class is about artificial intelligence. And I promise you, we are going to get to the fun stuff and cool stuff as quickly as we possibly can. But we've got to take a couple of lessons to lay the foundation, lay the groundwork so you actually understand what we're doing and are not just trying to copy the keystrokes that I'm putting on the screen. I want you to understand it. And so we got to take 2 or 3 lessons to set the foundation so that as we're going through the class, you understand why I am doing the things that I am doing. Last lesson, we learned how to run multiple versions of Python on the same Windows computer. Today, what we're going to learn is we're going to learn how to take it to the next level, which is to run those different versions of Python in virtual environments. And so we are going to be running in virtual environments. And I always would see when I would take Python classes online, they would start doing this virtual environment thing and just start pounding the keyboard, and I'm trying to copy it. I never really understood it. So I want to tell you what virtual environments are. They're little sandboxes where you can play with Python without a fear of corrupting your main Python installations or your main Python interpreters. So if you followed along in the last lesson, we have installed Python 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, and 3.9. Those are over here. Those are our main Python installations. Now, we don't want to fool with those because this is the danger. We are doing lessons on 3D animations and 3D graphics, okay? And let's say we install a lot of libraries and we get everything all tuned up where Python is working perfectly to do just these stupendous 3D animations and 3D graphics. And then we come over to this series of lessons and we start doing artificial intelligence and we install this bleeding edge library and it somehow corrupts our entire Python system. That would be bad. We would have to go back and reinstall everything from scratch. So what we want to do is we want to leave our Python installations over here untouched. And when we install libraries, we want to do them in virtual environments over here. And so this virtual environment could be like a Python 3.9 for the purpose of 3D graphics. This could be a Python 3.9 for the purpose of artificial intelligence. This virtual environment could be Python 3.7 for the purpose of facial recognition or something like that. So we create these virtual environments, and that way what I do in this one doesn't mess up what I did over here or doesn't mess up my main Python installation. And so believe me, I have really messed up by trying to just run everything off of the same Python. And so what we want to do is we want to know how to do these virtual environments. Does that make sense? And then we'll create the virtual environment and then we will do our AI inside of that virtual environment. And then if you're doing Python graphics, it would be good to do that in its own virtual environment as well. I hope that makes sense. So without further ado, I will get out of your way. We will hop over here to my screen capture. And what I need you to do is open up a PowerShell. And so we need to type in power, and then you can see the window PowerShell comes up. Very important. I need you to run it as an administrator. Okay. When you say to run it as administrator, it'll probably give you a pop-up asking, do you really want to allow PowerShell to change or whatever? Yeah, you say yes. Okay, so now when I come in here, it looks like I came into some system folder, and so I want to go to my home folder, to my user folder. We do that by doing a CD for change directory, and then the squiggly will take me to my home directory, and you can see that for me that's C users, and my username is valued customer. If you're Tom, you might be in C/users/Tom, okay? But this will take you to your home folder. Now, if I want to see what I have in my home folder, I type dir for directory, and you can see that these are all the things in my home folder. This is the documents folder. This would be like if you're using the folder view, the GUI view, this would be your My Documents folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead into that, and so I'm going to say, you cannot see that, can you? Sorry about that. All right, it's like that. So hopefully we didn't do that much. We just did CD squiggly, and then we did a dir, and that is all that we've done so far. So I think you should be okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down into that documents folder, and I will do that by CD for change directory into documents. And if I want to see what's in there, so you see I'm in users, valued customer, that's my username, and documents. And so now if I do a dir, these are all the different things that I have here. Now you need to have a folder to kind of keep track of your Python stuff, and so it's where you can keep your Python programs, and then it's also where you put your virtual environments. And so I have a folder called Python inside of my documents. If you don't have that, then you do need to do a make directory mkdir, and you need to say Python. When I do that, I get an error because there was already a Python file, a Python folder there, and so therefore that's why I get the error, but you won't get that error. You should get a Python directory. All right, now we want to go down into that Python directory, so we CD change directory into Python like that, and now I do a dir, and you can see, ignore this, what did I just do? I'd kind of gone through a dry run of this before you guys tuned in, and so I had some virtual environments already in there, so I erased them. So now if I do a dir, I've just got Python files and some programs, VPython videos, just my Python related folders are there. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Now, what do we want to do? We want to create a virtual environment. All right, and so there is going to be some artificial intelligence stuff that we're going to want to run in Python 3.7 and some that we're going to want to run in Python 3.9. So this is what you have to understand about virtual environments. The Python that you run to create the virtual environment will define what that virtual environment's Python is. And so if I create the virtual environment with Python 3.7, then that virtual environment is going to run Python 3.7. If I create a virtual environment with Python 3.9, then inside of that virtual environment, it's going to run Python 3.9. So you've got to be very mindful and deliberate when you create a virtual environment. You've got to be very deliberate about what version of Python you run to create the virtual environment. So let me give you an example. There is going to be artificial intelligence work that we need to do in Python 3.7. So we're going to need to have a virtual environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say py, okay, and then dash 3.7. So I'm now running Python version 3.7. This is the command that launches Python version 3.7. And then what do I want to do? I put -m, okay, and then I want to run the program venv for virtual environment. and I fear I better get further out of your way, okay? And so Python dash 3.7 minus m virtual environment. This is going to create my virtual environment. And now I just got to give the virtual environment a name, okay? And I'm just going to call it PyAI for Python Artificial Intelligence. Now, I don't have to put a path because I'm sitting in the PowerShell inside my Python folder. It will put it in the Python folder. If I was sitting somewhere else, I would need to give the path to the Python folder. But that's why we navigate it here, because this will put it in there. And so then I'm going to put enter, and it waits a second, and it waits a second. Boom, look at that. Okay, look at that. It did that without an error. So that's a happy little thing that we didn't get an error. And now if I do a dir, you see that I have a folder here now called PyAI. But the thing to understand is that's now like its own little sandbox of a fresh new Python 3.7 environment that I can operate in without a fear of corrupting my main Python 3.7 installation. But we've got to turn it on. If I want to work in there, I've got to activate it. So what I have to do is I have to say PyAI and then /scripts. And guys, notice the direction of the slash. Okay, it's different than like the HTTP. It's different than a URL. It goes the other way inside the PowerShell. So it's PyAI /scripts with an uppercase S and then activate. Okay, now this is why I wanted you to log on as a this is why I wanted you to log on as an administrator. Is the default PowerShell has it where you cannot run scripts, okay, and that's for security reasons. And so you need to understand security. I'm not a security expert, but I'll show you how you can run these virtual environments in PowerShell, and then you need to look into the security implications on your own. But the way that you can do it is you can say set execution policy. So I'm going to set the execution policy, and I'm going to set it as remote signed. And what that means is when I set it as remote signed, let me move that up so you can see it. Okay. When I set it as remote signed, it will allow you to run your local scripts that you've written. And then if it's a script from the internet, it has to be signed. So remote signed. And then I'm going to put a scope of current user. Man, and I just cannot get my head out of the way, huh? Okay, now you can see that. So we're going to set the execution policy to remote signed, and then the scope is current user. So it's just for me, the current user, and then this will allow scripts, all right? And then when I hit enter, it says, do you want to really do this? I'll say A, yes to all. And then it looks like it likes it. Okay, now I'll show you how to put it back the way it was. Set execution policy, and instead of remote signed, you can go to restricted. And if I understand right, that should put it the way it was, and then A for all. And so now we're right back to where we started. So you can undo the thing that I'm showing you to do. But let's go back and redo it. I'm hitting the up arrow key to go back to my old command. So I'm going to set the execution policy to remote signed, and this should allow me now to activate that virtual environment. So remember that PyAI. Okay, that's my Python Artificial Intelligence virtual environment /script/activate. And when I do that, boom, look at that. Now this is your key. This is telling me here that I am operating inside of my Python virtual environment and it's Python 3.7 because that is what we installed. So now if I say Python, what's it going to run? It's going to run Python 3.7 because we use 3.7 to create the virtual environment. So I will just say Python, and boom, look at that. We are in Python 3.7.9. Okay, now I can do quit to quit out of that. And now watch this. All right, so I can do a pip, and I'm still inside of the virtual environment. I can do a pip, and I'm going to install PySerial. Guys, why do I keep installing and uninstalling PySerial? Because it's a real simple little library that goes fast, and so it just allows me to show that. So now I do pip install PySerial. And it says that it was successfully installed. All right. So now if I go Python and then I say import serial, boom, it imports serial. I don't get an error. Why? Because inside of this virtual environment, I have that installed. But now I'm going to quit out of Python 3.7. Now I'm just back in my Python virtual environment, and I'm going to leave my virtual environment. How do I do that? Just deactivate, and now I'm just back in my plain old PowerShell. Right now, like if I just type Python here, I go into Python 3.7.9, but yours might not be configured that way, so I'm going to quit. So I'm just going to say, to make sure that we do that, I'm going to say Py and then dash 3.7. That's going to guarantee that I go into Python 3.7. If I do that, now I am running Python 3.7. Now watch this. Import serial, and I get a module not found. Good. Why? Because now I'm in my main Python installation, and you can see that it doesn't have PySerial because that is in the sandbox. That is in that PyAI virtual environment. So by installing something there, I did not touch my main Python environment. Okay, so I am going to quit. Right now I'm going to dir, and you can see there is that Python AI environment. All right, actually that shows you how to make an environment. How do you delete an environment? Let's say that got just so messed up you wanted to just get rid of it. You just say remove directory, RMDIR, and then what do? PyAI. I'm going to remove that directory, and I want to remove everything. A for yes to all, and then if I do a dir, you can see that the virtual environment is gone. It's like it never even happened. I hate being that small. I hate being a little postage stamp. All right. So we made a virtual environment, we went in it, we left it, and then we deleted it. Well, actually, I want to do some artificial intelligence in Python 3.7, and I want to do some artificial intelligence in Python 3.9. So I'm going to create two different virtual environments. And so let's start here. What do I want to do? I'm going to do Python, and if I want a 3.7 virtual environment, I better create it with Python 3.7. So I'm going to put dash 3.7. That makes sure that it's going to run Python 3.7, and I'm going to have to go back to postage stamp size. Okay, and then we are in the Python folder still, so it will put it in that folder. And then what I want to do, -m, and I want to create a virtual environment. And then what do I want to call it? I want to call it PyAI 3.7. Okay, let's hope that works. Always get nervous when it pauses like that, but boom, look at that, no errors. Okay, that's good. And now what I want to also do is I hit the arrow key to just call that back. I'm going to run Python 3.9, and I'm going to create a virtual environment, and it is going to be virtual environment PyAI 3.9. Okay, these names here aren't important. You could call that virtual environment whatever you wanted, but I just make it match because I choose to. I make it match this just so I will keep track of what's what later. It helps me remember what's what, and I will create that virtual environment by hitting enter. Take a sip of my Go juice, and boom, look at that. We have, and I do a dir, And we have two virtual environments, Pi AI 3.7, Pi AI 3.9. So let's just do a Pi AI 3.9. I need to go to the scripts folder and I need to activate that. Okay, and boom, look at that, we're in Pi AI 3.9. And now if I put Python like that, it's 3.9.6, which is what we would expect. If I say import serial, it doesn't import it. So I'm going to quit. Okay, and now what do I want to do? I want to pip install, and then what do I want to pip install? I want to pip install Pi serial. Okay, and then successfully installed. All right, now if I go Python, I am still Python 3.9.6. I'm Python 3.9.6 in my Python AI 3.9 virtual environment. And now if I say import serial, it does it without a problem. Then I'm going to quit. All right, now I'm going to deactivate the virtual environment. Let's go to that other virtual environment, and that is going to be Python 3.7. So I'm going to activate my other virtual environment. When I put Python, just as simple as that, Python, it goes to 3.7.9 and import serial. Okay, it's not there. Why is it not there? Because it just installed it in that other virtual environment. It's playing in the sandbox. It's not coming over here. So I can quit like that, and then I can say pip install Pi serial, and then it says it installed it. Now I go Python, and now I go import serial, and it's happy. Okay, now I'm going to quit. All right, now what am I going to do? Now I'm going to pip uninstall Pi serial, just so that we go back the way we were. Get rid of it. Yes, I want to get rid of it. Okay, and now I'm going to deactivate that virtual environment. I'm going to activate the 3.9 virtual environment. Activate 3.9. Okay, and now I'm in the Python 3.9 virtual environment, Python. It runs Python 3.9.6, and if I say import serial, it's still happy because its serial is still in this virtual environment. All right, so now I'm going to quit out of the Python interpreter, and now I'm going to deactivate. Let me just show you one other thing. Let me go back. Okay, you see, this is like a Python interpreter where you can actually put in Python commands. So I could say x equals 7, y equal 3, z equal x plus y, and then print z, and I get 10. Okay, see, this is like you're in your Python interpreter here, if I didn't explain that before. But now I'm going to quit out of that. Now I'm back to the PowerShell, and I'm going to say pip uninstall Pi serial. And so with that, then what I have is I have a virtual environment 3.7, I have a virtual environment 3.9, and they have completely clean. Okay, what I want you to do for your homework assignment now, I want you to create 4 virtual environments. Because remember, in the earlier lesson, you installed the latest versions of Python 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. I want you to create 4 virtual environments. I want you to go into them. I want you to confirm that you have the right version of Python running in each one of those. And I want you to install Pi serial on inside of each one of those virtual environments. Okay, if you do that successfully and you verified it, in the comments down below, I need you to put the comment, I am legend. If for some reason it didn't work or you couldn't figure it out, you put in the comments down below, I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Okay, one or the other. There's no other in between. You're either a legend or you fold it up like a cheap Walmart Walmart lawn chair. Okay, also we have a little game that we play here to make sure that you've watched to the end of the video. I give you a magic word, and what the magic word today is garden fresh salad. Okay, that was actually my lunch today. That was my lunch today. And I actually grow most of my own food. These eggs are from my chickens. I have chickens. These raspberries are from my raspberry bush. I have avocado trees. I have lettuce growing. Even the dressing we made from scratch, I have like oregano and thyme and rosemary and all of that sort of stuff. So we're kind of living the sustainable, self-sufficient lifestyle. And most of the food I eat, we grow right here on the old compound. So to show that you watch it all the way to the end and get a little thumbs up from me, might even get a little heart on your comment, is if you type in the comments garden fresh salad. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making them. And this has been some really important stuff, and it looks so simple when I explain it to you kind of step by step. But man, I was confused for years by these virtual environments. And finally, I went in there and figured out what they were. And once I figured them out, I say, I can explain this to people where they understand it. Now, as we move forward, you'll understand when I go in and say, activate this virtual environment, you'll understand it. Okay. And also we can be working over here in this environment, doing our graphics works and our 3D animation. Over here in this virtual environment, we can be working on the artificial intelligence. And then let's say we wanted to do something crazy like combine the 3D animation work with the artificial intelligence. We might make our own virtual environment just for that. Okay, guys, I am having a lot of fun. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Those things really help me with the YouTube algorithms. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure you ring that bell so you will get notifications when the old Top Tech Boy uploads new programs. Paul McWhorter, TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you huckleberries later.